I am upset because I see what is not there. I am upset because I see what is not there. I am upset because I see what is not there. I see only the past. I see only the past. I see only the past. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. 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 I see nothing as it is now. I see nothing as it is now. I see nothing as it is now. My thoughts do not mean anything. My thoughts do not mean anything. My thoughts do not mean anything. Here I'm singing about my thoughts do not mean anything. That ought to be kind of humorous in and of itself. Anyway, we ought to be seeing the humor in everything. But we got to realize that our thoughts don't mean anything if we're seeing in the past. And that's what this lesson's all about. The review of lessons 6 through 10, which I am upset because I see what is not there. I see only the past. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. I see nothing as it is now. My thoughts do not mean anything because I'm not thinking with God. I'm not in the present moment. When we learn to think with God, we'll be in the present moment, and then it won't be true anymore that my thoughts do not mean anything. But at this level, when we're first starting out, our thoughts don't mean anything because we're basing everything on past experiences instead of being in the holy present. Okay, well, let's we're gonna save the reading of the lesson until we come back in after we've read our text, and that way we can go right into one of your 2-minute practice periods, which we're supposed to have about 7 or more practice periods, each to last 2 minutes throughout the day today. But before we get there, we'll read the text. I'm Forgiveness Willie, teaching forgiveness from the Ozarks, from the Rocky Mountains today. I'm here on Little Fork of the Snake River, near Keystone, Colorado, and I'm right down in the riverbed. The river's just over here, just like 10 feet from me. I thought I'd probably better stay on the bank, or what I think was the bank. It's kind of hard to tell with all the snow. Okay, well, let's take a look at our lesson. The reality of the kingdom. Or that's our text reading for today, which is in chapter 7, the gifts of the kingdom. And the reality of the kingdom is Roman numeral 3. The Holy Spirit teaches one lesson and applies it to all individuals in all situations. Being conflict-free, he maximizes all efforts and all results. By teaching the power of the kingdom of God himself, he teaches you that all power is yours. Its application does not matter. It is always maximal. Your vigilance does not establish it as yours, but it does enable you to use it always and in all ways. When I said, I am with you always, I meant it literally. And that's the last verse in chapter 28 of Matthew, where it's recorded that Jesus said, I'm with you always, even to the end of the age, or the end of the world, some translations say. Matthew 28:20. When I said I'm with you always, I meant it literally. I'm not absent to anyone in any situation. Because I am always with you, you are the way, the truth, and the life. Now, isn't that something? So now he said, because he's with us always, that we're the way, the truth, and the life. And that was something that was recorded of Jesus saying of himself in John chapter 14 and verse 6. You did not make this power any more than I did. It was created to be shared, and therefore cannot be meaningfully perceived as belonging to anyone at the expense of another. Such a perception makes it meaningless by eliminating or overlooking its real and only meaning. Paragraph 2. God's meaning waits in the kingdom because that is where he placed it. It does not wait in time. It merely rests in the kingdom because it belongs there as you do. How can you who are God's meaning perceive yourself as absent from it? You can see yourself as separated from your meaning only by experiencing yourself as unreal. This is why the ego is insane. It teaches that you are not what you are. That is so contradictory, it is clearly impossible. It is therefore a lesson you cannot really learn, and therefore cannot really teach. Yet you're always teaching. You must therefore be teaching something else, even though the ego does not know what it is. The ego then is always being undone and does suspect your motives. Your mind cannot be unified in allegiance to the ego because the mind does not belong to it. Yet what is treacherous to the ego is faithful to peace. The ego's, in quotes, enemy is therefore your friend. The ego's enemy is your friend. Paragraph 3. I said before that the ego's friend is not part of you, because the ego perceives itself at war and therefore in need of allies. You who are not at war must look for brothers and recognize all whom you see as brothers, because only equals are at peace. Because God's equal sons have everything, they cannot compete. Okay, because you have everything, you don't need to compete because there's nothing to try to get from anybody else. We've been given everything in our creation. Yet if you perceive any of your brothers as anything other than their perfect equals, the idea of competition has entered their minds. Let's read that again. Yet if they perceive any of their brothers as anything other than their perfect equals, the idea of competition has entered their minds. Do not underestimate your need to be vigilant against this idea, because all your conflicts come from it. Wow. Let's read it again if it's all our conflicts come from it. Let's make sure we understand it. I said before that the ego's friend is not part of you, because the ego perceives itself at war and therefore in need of allies. You who are not at war must look for brothers and recognize all whom you see as brothers, because only equals are at peace. Because God's equal sons have everything, they cannot compete. Yet if they perceive any of their brothers as anything other than their perfect equals, the idea of competition has entered their minds. Do not underestimate your need to be vigilant against this idea, because all your conflicts come from it. It reminds me of there in James, where he says that I don't recall exactly how it says it, but it's the idea that your wars and fighting comes from you wanting something and don't have it, so you try to get it. And I don't remember what there were. I think it's chapter 1 or 2 in James, if I remember right. I think that's where it's at. Do not underestimate your need to be vigilant against this idea, because all your conflicts come from it. You want to see yourselves as equal with your brother. Don't have a respecter of persons, is the way the Bible says it there in James. It is the belief that conflicting interests are possible, and therefore you have accepted the impossible as true. Is that different from saying you perceive yourself as unreal? Paragraph 4. To be in the kingdom is merely to focus your full attention on it. To be in the kingdom is merely to focus your full attention on it. As long as you believe you can attend to what is not true, you are accepting conflict as your choice. Is it really a choice? It seems to be, but seeming and reality are hardly the same. You who are the kingdom are not concerned with seeming. Reality is yours because you are reality. This is how having and being are ultimately reconciled, not in the kingdom, but in your mind. The altar there is the only reality. Remember what altars are? Your devotions. The altar there is the only reality. The altar in your mind is the only real reality. You don't even have to say real reality, because reality is reality, but I was trying to emphasize it. The altar there is the only reality. The altar is perfectly clear in thought, because it is a reflection of perfect thought. Your right mind sees only brothers, because it sees only in its own light. And the last paragraph we'll read for today, paragraph 5. God has lit your mind himself and keeps your mind lit by his light, because his light is what your mind is. This is totally beyond question, and when you question it, you are answered. The answer merely undoes the question by establishing the fact that to question reality is to question meaninglessly. That is why the Holy Spirit never questions. His sole function is to undo the questionable that leads to certainty. The certain are perfectly calm because they are not in doubt. They do not raise questions because nothing questionable enters their minds. This holds them in perfect serenity because this is what they share, knowing what they are. Wow. Okay. Let's go. We'll go back and look now at lesson 52, which is our review of lessons 6 through 10. But before we actually read that, let's see what's going on around the world. I couldn't find any religious holidays, which is what I always try to find. But I did find on holidays and observances, card reading day, a day to take some of your old gift cards you've been given, and like birthday cards, whatever, and sit down and kind of read them again, or read them for the first time. I've got cards that, unfortunately, I haven't really looked at that I got long ago. I got a whole bunch of cards, and I wasn't feeling like reading them when my first wife died. I probably ought to sit down today and read them, but they're back in Missouri. I'm not going to do that. I did read most of them, I think. Not sure exactly. But what I'm trying to say is that would be a few cards that I've got stashed away in a box that probably be nice to read. I was going to send appreciation cards out to everybody, and I never got around to it. Raising 6 kids. The oldest one was 10 years old. Mom got, killed in a car wreck, and the youngest one was 10 months old, and it was a pretty good job for me just to learn how to feed them all and keep clothes washed. And so that was kind of priority. International Mother Language Day. There a lot of people say that some of the original languages on the planet are like Sanskrit, Hebrew, Egyptian. Anyway, there's several. I don't know for sure. I do know that if you look it up, you'll find that there's about 7,000 languages. Many of them are dying out. They say a couple of hundred die out every year. Caregivers Day, that ought to be, each of us ought to be caregivers, always looking for opportunities to extend love by giving care, giving help where it's needed. Grain-free Day for you folks that that can't eat grain. You might try organic, because it's a lot of times the decedent they spray on the wheat that makes it, irritable bowel syndrome problems and everything, because that residual glyphosate gets into the food, and it's minimize that. So eat organic is what I'm trying to say if you're eating grain. And there's some older grains that don't have as much gluten in it, like spelt instead of wheat. Anyway, there might be some opportunities to not go totally grain-free, but grain-free, making it up with lots of vegetables, probably be a real healthy diet anyway. Yukon Heritage Day, which is basically just a day that the folks up in the Yukon celebrate their culture. Okay, and then out of edible landscaping, we've got the Trentberry. Trentberry is a huckleberry, a southern type huckleberry, vigorous and adaptable, a heavy producer of large glossy black fruit about 1/2 inch in diameter, extremely ornamental when the berries start to ripen, with red, green, and black berries ripening over a long season. Ripens with powder blue. Leaves have good fall color. Height 6 feet. Native, selected by Glenn Melcher of Pineville, Louisiana. Space 6 to 8 foot circles. Zone 6 through 10. Okay, and I tried to find the species, and it's a vaccinium, so it's same as the blueberries, but I wasn't able to find the species. Every place I found it said it's a SPP, which basically means that it could be several species crossed, I think is what that SPP means. Okay, now let's take a look at, our word for peace today will be son, if I'm pronouncing it right, out of the Basay people of Cameroon, and their word for peace is son, or sane. Let's go son. Son be with you. Hopefully that's correct. That's what I did last year. We'll hopefully get it right again this year. I'm hoping we start getting enough people that'll say, hey, I know how to pronounce that. I'll send him an email about proper pronunciation. And my email's in the description below. So be sure to do so if you know the proper pronunciation of any of these words. Okay, now let's go look at Lesson 52. Today's review covers these ideas. I'm upset because I see what is not there. That was Lesson 6. And then 7, I see only the past. Lesson 8, my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. Lesson 9, I see nothing as it is now, and my thoughts do not mean anything. And what I do, he wants us to read through all the lesson and then do a 2-minute practice period or more. Oh, wait, there's a lot of snow just falling on me. Let's get this knocked off of me. Boy, that could be a problem with my, as it melts. Let me get that off my book and off my guitar, because I had a whole bunch of snow just fall, probably out of that tree up there. So let's see if we can get this all shaken off before. Look at all that snow on my guitar. Let's see. It make it a little more difficult to play. Matter of fact, I never have played with snow on my guitar before, so this will be a new experience, because I don't think we're going to get it off right now. I'm going to turn it upside down. It won't happen again. I'll learn that next time. I'll have that upside down. I got snow all over me. So part of being up here in Colorado in February, huh? Okay. Anyway, what I was going to say, he wants us to do 2-minute practice period or more every after you've read the whole lesson. Do that in the morning, and then do that again in the evening before you go to bed. Read all the lesson, and then meditate for 2 minutes. And then throughout the day, take 2 minutes and read just one of the lessons. And you can do it in any order you want to. I usually start with the first one and go to the second one. But what I wanted to mention is when you're doing those lessons, go ahead and read the titles of all of them, and then read that one lesson. And the reason why I say that is because he's wanting us to see how they all fit together better. And because that's an important part of what he's trying to teach us, is how they all relate. So anyway, for what that's worth. Okay, I am upset because I see what is not there. Lesson 6. And you don't have to go back and look at lesson 6 as it was written when we studied the first time. This time we're trying to understand more about how they all relate together, these 5 lessons. Reality is never frightening. It is impossible that it could upset me. Reality brings only perfect peace. When I am upset, it is always because I have replaced reality with illusions I made up. The illusions are upsetting because I have given them reality and thus regard reality as illusion. Nothing in God's creation is affected in any way by this confusion of mine. I am always upset by nothing. I am upset because I see what is not there. So tell yourself that next time you get upset. Say, okay, I'm upset because I see what is not there. I better just have an open mind. I forgot what to decide. Lesson 7, I see only the past. I've got a lot of snow over here on my other papers too. Let me see if I can remove that just a little bit. Give me just a second. Okay. I see only the past. As I look about, I condemn the world I look upon. I call this seeing. I hold the past against everyone and everything, with making them my enemies. I hold the past against everyone and everything, making them my enemies. When I have forgiven myself and remembered who I am, I will bless everyone and everything I see. There will be no past and therefore no enemies, and I will look with love on all that I failed to see before. And lesson 8, my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. I see only my own thoughts, and my mind is preoccupied with the past. What then can I see as it is? Let me remember that I look on the past to prevent the present from dawning on my mind. Let me understand that I'm trying to use time against God. Let me learn to give the past away, realizing that in so doing, I'm giving up nothing. Give the past away. I'm giving up nothing. Lesson 9, I see nothing as it is now. If I see nothing as it is now, it can truly be said that I see nothing. I can see only what is now. The choice is not whether to see the past or the present. The choice is merely whether to see or not. What I have chosen to see has cost me vision. Now I would choose again that I may see. I see nothing as it is now. And the last review for today, number 10. My thoughts do not mean anything. I have no private thoughts. I have no private thoughts. Thoughts, I'm thinking something and I know that no one else can know what I'm thinking. That's a private thought. Look what he says. I have no private thoughts. Yet it is only private thoughts of which I am aware. What can these thoughts mean? They do not exist, and so they mean nothing. Yet my mind is part of creation and part of its creator. Would I not rather join the thinking of the universe than to obscure all that is really mine with my pitiful and meaningless private thoughts? So there again, he's trying to remind us of this idea that the only thoughts that we're really thinking in reality are the thoughts we share with the universe, with God. They're not private at all. Everyone knows what we're thinking. It's that tapping into that telepathic realm that that a lot of our alien brothers and sisters, and they've come and spoken to like those children in I was in Africa, a school back in the early 90s, and it was about 60 kids, and they all heard the consciousness that came out of the ship, looked at them all with these big eyes, and it spoke without words, but they all heard it. And it basically said, protect the environment, protect your environment, cherish it. Okay, so anyway, we want to start learning to speak with that ability. And what is our time? Do I got plenty of time to do our 2 minute? I think we do. I am upset because I see what is not there. I see only the past. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. I see nothing as it is now. My thoughts do not mean anything. And I think you can do your 2 minute practice period right now, and I'll sing it. And you can close your eyes and go ahead and do one of your 2 minute practice periods right now. I am upset because I see what is not there. I am upset because I see what is not there. I am upset because I see what is not there. I see only the past. I see only the past. I see only the past. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. 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 I see nothing as it is now. I see nothing as it is now. I see nothing as it is now. My thoughts do not mean anything. My thoughts do not mean anything. My private thoughts, my thoughts do not mean anything. We'll move along and we'll get to the place where we realize that we do have thoughts that are meaningful. That's our thoughts we share with the whole universe, that we share with God. But we've got to undo the way we are thinking so that we make room for the new. Okay? I am upset because I see what is not there. I see only the past. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. I see nothing as it is now. My thoughts do not mean anything. Son. Thank you all so much for joining me. Son be with you. I am upset because I see what is not there. I see only the past. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. I see nothing as it is now. My thoughts do not mean anything. Son.